Welcome to Boiling Point, the podcast to motivate ever-evolving entrepreneurs and forward-thinking movement pioneers. Our hosts, filmmaker Greg Hemmings and executive coach Dave Vale, are turning up the heat in the world's business communities. Our interviews with entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and movement makers are raising the temperature of inspiration. Live from the hottest studio in this quadrant of the universe, here are Dave and Greg.
Hey, it's nice to be back with you, Greg. I think, we got Dolores, our guest soon to be introduced, who is making herself look presentable.
I'm going to do the same thing. Got to get all the hairs in the right spot here.
The hair looks good. I've done the same with my hair, as you can tell.
I like your new glasses, Dave.
Well, thank you. Yeah. They're I'm getting used to them slowly but surely. But I think we got to let listeners know that we had a whole slate of interviews scheduled, Dolores being our guest coming up, being one of them. And you found yourself in the emergency room with quite a traumatic experience, I'll say.
Yeah, well, traumatic and funny. But Dave.
Not funny. I don't think, to be honest, like I like to take the piss out of you, as they say, but this isn't one of those things, because it was not a good experience.
Well, this is a classic entrepreneur's experience where you see, whenever we have these podcast sessions, which as our listeners know, this is a weekly podcast, but we batch record them, so we get 4 or 5 done a month. And last month, the night before our recording session, Dave, a very high pressure pump exploded and had water that was well over 100 degrees Celsius explode all over my chest and my sides. And I got third-degree burns. And I'm telling this story with a smile on my face because I've somehow healed very quickly and I'm doing well. But the first thing that came through my mind was like, how am I going to make the podcast work tomorrow? I'm in so much pain right now and I'm at the hospital. So then I texted you and I was like, Dave, yes. I think you have to cancel. So, So this is my first time back on the podcast since getting a sunburn, if you will.
Yes. Well, welcome back. And we were texting back and forth, and even amidst the pain and being in hospital, there was humor in your texts. And God love you, because only you could do that. So, but here, there's a nice segue here to our guest. Okay. And I read this line and I thought, this is so perfect for us. So Dolores' superpower is making sense of chaos and then turning that chaos into a clear and powerful business strategy. And so I want to hear more about that. But when I think of chaos, I often think of you and myself.
Us.
And how we do our podcasts,
yeah.
And how we live our lives to a degree. I know we've got our businesses locked down a little bit over the last 15, 16 years, and that's just through maybe perseverance and hard work and some dumb luck. But I'm really curious to hear a little more about our guests. So Dolores, we generally like to get our guests to introduce themselves. I just did a little bit of a cliffhanger there, but we're going to send it over to you. And thank you for joining us. And where are you joining us from?
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Greg. I am glad you're here and looking great. And the beard didn't get burned, so that's good.
Oh, that's right. And just really quickly, what did get burned was my MacBook Pro that I was holding in my hand at the same time, which, for the record, saved my crotch. Just for maybe too much information.
Send that to MacBook.
I also
you know that your Mac has superpowers. Have you ever used your Mac as a shield?
There we go. We have proven it. And today is the very first podcast recorded on my brand new insurance paid for MacBook Pro 15-inch with the new M1 chip. Back to you, Dolores.
So, chaos, humor, creativity, I think all of us can say we share that. But none of you guys wouldn't be here showing up if we were not run by systems. So I think when we think about chaos and creativity, you have to have a sandbox where to play in, otherwise you can't build a castle. So what do? I love chaos because I like to organize the chaos so that it can stay in chaos, and give you the freedom. I call it the fake freedom. It's a freedom in a sandbox, and that's not limiting. It's just is boundaries are what allows us to be free to create. We can't create if we don't resist against something always. And so it is actually that you think is keeping you in a box. That is the biggest asset for you to be in the most creative. I don't know why I went in there. Let me introduce myself. So my name is Dolores. I'm originally from Argentina. I do have an accent. Most people, I've spoken public speaking, you speak for an hour and you say, yay, guys, I want to hear your questions. First question, where are you from? And you know they haven't heard a word because they've been thinking for an hour, where the heck is she from? So I'll go right at that. I'm from Argentina. Spanish is my first language, but I have been here in Massachusetts for over 20 years. I am watching it snow right now. It's actually beautiful. Another snowstorm coming. I have 4 children, 4 teenagers, although my oldest is 21, but he's still kind of a teenager. And who do I work with? What is my ideal client? Ideas. They happen to live in people's heads, but I believe in ideas that can have a positive impact in the world. And what's holding ideas back is us people. We get in the way of change. We get in the way of forward movement, and our emotions. I'm an executive coach and a business strategist. I went to business school, all the yada yada, marketing and communications for 20 years, TEDx organizer. But all that to say that I've been in a quest of unlocking ideas from people's from our smallness. I think we tend to stay small and not give the ideas that gift that we were kind of presented with our full potential because we don't believe we can. And I believe that if you have a great idea, someone somehow chose you to take this on. So don't second guess it. Just go for it.
That's awesome and inspiring. It's interesting, Dolores, because Dave and I we started our businesses around the same time. Dave's got an executive coaching company called Vision, and I've got a film storytelling company called Hemmings House. And was it 15 years ago, Dave? 14 years ago, or something of that nature, where you and I were talking about starting our businesses. So we've grown our businesses kind of parallel together in a fun way.
They're like cousins.
But that many years in, what you're saying right now completely relates even to, like, I would say that, 15 years in building a business gets you to a certain point of business maturity that you've done a few things and figured a few things out. But I think that self-limiting barrier is just as relevant to seasoned entrepreneurs as it is to new ones. And I wonder in your work if you have seen a difference because I think a lot of people have that same issue. But do you see any differences between more early phase entrepreneurs or clients and versus later phase?
Yeah. The more seasoned you are, the more limiting beliefs you have.
Ooh, okay. The truth. You are the master.
No, so here's the thing. Any starting entrepreneur is in the startup inertia, right? They're doing something new. So they're tipping some belief cows anyway, like whether they're quitting their job or investing, anything it doesn't have to be big or small to be a big deal. Like investing, and a person that says, I'm going to start my own business, so I'm going to buy a fancy computer, using your example, Greg, and I'm going to invest this much money because I believe that I can make money out of this tool that I buy. That's a huge deal. And for some, it's just tipping the belief that I'm not worth of a fancy computer. That's just a belief. So I think the startup group of people have an inertia that is tipping beliefs because they are embarking in something new. I think when you're in the 6 to 10 year mark, you have 2 choices. You either say, oh, I have a nice little cash flow coming. People know me. I can do marketing, but they know about me, word of mouth. You have a little bit of a tipping point of ongoing business. Kind of like you ask yourself, I don't know where these people come from, but they do come, right? Sounds familiar?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
it does actually.
Yeah, it's true. It's like, okay, well, we used to
great.
dream to have people call us, but now
I know they do. Yeah. Obviously, you've done some things right. But here's the thing. When I work with my clients, I mean, most of my clients have started to some extent. They're making, let's say, $50,000 a year at least. They're not on 0. But I love getting the clients in the mid-range, in the 250 to 500, who have done something right. And now like, okay, this is working. Like it's a little old machine. I'm a tiny bit bored. and what do I do now? And so when they come to me, what we look for is a business within the business. So basically, I think that we are all always in startup mode if we choose that path. And what I mean by that is that, first of all, I'm both a coach and a strategist. So I believe that it requires a personal transformation for a business transformation. So for every 5 or 10 years of growth in your business, there's the opportunity, if you want to take it, to up level again. And there comes a moment where you say, I am up leveled out, and you exit and you either retire or sell or whatever. And that's cool. It's a different way of up leveling. It's choosing to live a different way. And it's another startup, if you think about it. So I think entrepreneurs, true creative entrepreneurs, are not necessarily looking for a job. They're looking to create. And many of us end up falling into a job where we are the boss, and we suck at being our own bosses. We really do. We don't even get promotions sometimes. Do you really need that computer? Let's dry it up. It's burned up. Yeah, but we can still patch it up, right? And make do. So I think there's this. Here's the thing. I think the whole thing is fun and it's a game. And for me, it's like a Mario Kart. I used to play in the little like actual machine. Now with the Xbox, I don't even know how to play. But it's like, what's the next level? For me, it's like, okay, I'm a little bit bored. What now? What do I do now? What's next? And that is the conversation and curiosity and exploration that I'm constantly in. Which to that my mother would always answer, it's okay. You have 4 kids. Go make some cookies, go shopping, maybe get a gym. No, it didn't work for me. Anyway, but for some it's exhausting. So it's not for everybody. But for some, they just need a path for consistent reinvention and recreation, because that's how we are wired. And I'm going to pause now.
No, but I want to jump in. This is really, I love what you're saying. I'm curious about when you talked about that group that's in that range of, probably revenue and time in, what are you noticing starts to evolve in terms of thinking maybe, or patterns of thinking, or, the limiting beliefs and those sorts of things? Like, so they've got beyond the stage of like, can I make a living? And it's like, oh, I can. Does it, some complacency come in? Like, what are you noticing?
I mean, obviously every industry is different. Every kind of expert or business owner is different, but there's a feeling. There's a like, I remember when I had 5 clients on a day or 10 clients a day, I was so excited and juiced. When you get into that, you're like, oh no, 3 more clients. When you think to yourself 3 more clients and you're a little tired and a little drained, let's something's got to give. We need to shift a little bit. In the business that we're talking about, which is service professionals, experts, people helping people do something, personal brand, right? It's just most of us, and you just said it, I think it was Greg, you said, we dreamed of the day that the phone will ring to ask us for business. And now sometimes, for example, I remember the first year, if a request for consultation came on a Sunday, I would answer in the spot. When was the last time you did that on a weekend?
No.
Don't. I don't. Which is wonderful. Don't get me wrong. I am grateful and I celebrate that I don't. But that means that there's a bigger game that I could explore.
I'm living exactly what you're talking about, Dolores. It's Dave and I have been blessed in the last within the last 2 years to have our new additions to our families between the age of 1 and 2.5. Hey, Dave. And we're not spring chickens, but we're not old either, right? And but what I found was before our third baby was born, and I say our, I'm not talking about Dave and we just happen to have babies around the same time in our life journey. What I found was I was still giving in to the evening Zoom calls and the weekend. Like I was giving up my personal life. And I remember that bothering me quite a bit, trying to figure it out, because it's like business expects you to be going around the clock, and because everybody else has agreed to that. It's an agreement, apparently. But when I had my child, I had an excuse to say, no. When I leave, I'm done for the day. And then it's
next day,
tomorrow.
next business day.
And so I've got probably 14, 15 months of that behind me now, and I'm not going to go back. And it feels really good to have that control of, because we are at that point of our businesses that we're doing it. Dave and I talk about lifestyle business quite a bit. There's different ways of looking at lifestyle versus scale, which is a whole podcast in itself. But if we're building a business to live a lifestyle, why are we spending our lifestyle on
building a business?
It's like, especially at 15 years into the business, it's so I just want to acknowledge that in different phases of businesses, as you say, people have different challenges, but it opens up a great opportunity, like you said. And I love what you said about the entrepreneurialism opportunity of, creating a new startup that actually still benefits the business. And Dave, I just talked about this very podcast. Like, we're not in the business of making podcasts, but this podcast serves both of us as entrepreneurs and our businesses, so it's this fits into that.
It's really, and Dave, I know you're a coach. For me, that's where, so I don't call necessarily myself a life coach or executive coach, though I'm CTI trained, ICF accredited, PCC, blah, blah, blah. But it's my superpower. So in every conversation of a business owner, that they come to me for a specific solution. I want more money, I want more clients, or I want more freedom. One of the three. The first two are the same, actually. So I don't say, okay, what do we need to move in your business? My first question is like, what does your Tuesday 12 months from now look like? What does a Tuesday look like? If a Tuesday look like right now, it's 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. calls, then what does a Tuesday in 12 months from now? Is it yoga and meditation? And I don't start work until 10 a.m. ever. And I don't work on Fridays. And Mondays is, oh shit.
Listen, you figured it out. Master of clarity.
And some days I'm very busy, but so let me give you some actual tangible ideas. What does this mean? What does this look like? So depending on the business, I'm the main breadwinner in my house, and I have 4 fun teenagers. We ski. I'm a ski instructor, not working this winter because I don't have the bandwidth, but we are between here and skiing all winter long. And a few years ago I said, and I'm a creator. I have more ideas than I can execute. And I will start a lot of ideas that I never grow, to be honest, because my clients need X and then I'll build it. So a few years ago, I needed X. I needed to be put on stages consistently. So I learned everything about it. I tried to execute it. I failed. I hired a team member. I trained her. Now she's putting me on stages. She probably found this podcast. So my client said,
Jessica
is the best. So my clients is like, I want a Jessica too. So I started offering a product called Stage Agency, or something else was called, where we research and put you on stages, not just podcasts, any stages. So then I met a business owner who has a very large 8-figure business serving speakers. He said, I want what you have. So I sold it to him because I was never going to grow it. I love the strategy. It was not my baby. It was a solution for me, a solution for my clients. I was selling it out, but I never really even marketed because I love to create solutions. So now I have a passive income. What did I sell? Because it wasn't tangible. And this is why we started this conversation on systems. I sold the sandbox. I sold the systems. I sold the process. I sold how I train my stage agents. And now that is a product that was launched under another business in January 2020, Stage Agency. And in April 2020 was like, oh, did we launch in the wrong year? But lo and behold, nobody knows this, but there were more stages in 2020 than ever before because every conference had babies, because every one-day conference now needed to do something every month to keep their audiences entertained. So if they used to have 10 speakers in one-day conference once a year, now they had something every week because they wanted to keep the entertainment or the information or whatever. And we grew that to $1 million in 12 months.
Nice.
Wow.
Because he had the audience and I had the product.
That's awesome.
Well, and you know what I like about that is it's that willingness to collaborate and, and stick in your, stay to in your lane. Right. And like, this is what my gift is. And it's funny when I don't know if you've ever found yourself, Dolores, in the wrong lane. I have at different various times where I'm like, why am I doing this? Exactly. It sucks all my energy. It's expensive. It's not fun. I dread doing it. And yet, we all have lanes that we're really strong in. And then there's these other lanes that are just, I just have no business being in it. And it's catching yourself, and for me personally, it's like an energy thing. I can't explain it any other way, but
it either fills you up or drains you.
Exactly. And so good for you to recognize that, find a collaborator. And we're actually, Greg and I are going through that right now with the podcast. We're looking for someone who has the energy to bring to this is our lane. We enjoy this lane. Monetizing it and get, this passion project is not lanes that we're really interested in pursuing because we got all these other cool things going on in our life. So it's trying to find the right person to fit in, but that's tricky too, isn't it?
I'm looking to start a podcast. Maybe
well, Dolores,
let's talk.
We should talk sometime. We should get on a Zoom sometime.
Hey, we should record a podcast one day. No.
Hey, wouldn't that be a great episode if we made a collaboration right here, right now, live on the boiling point?
Let's do it. What do you guys want?
I feel like I'm surrounded by two very cretive people. I will try to keep up to you in this scenario. I'll give you a little quick story, Dolores. Our local chamber, our regional chamber, was doing. And actually, they just interviewed me the other day, Greg. They're interviewing members and stuff, and that was bringing me back to they were doing their annual award show, Outstanding Business Awards. It's called. Greg and I have been recipients in the past, and they asked us, would we host it? And on this, like the day before, I think it was, Greg suggested, well, why don't we just turn it into a big podcast live and we'll do this. And next thing and I just agreed. I said, okay. And I'm like in my head, how's this going to happen? Like, I just don't even see it. I'm sure it'll happen. It actually went off really well. But in speaking of creativity, it was just like and they bought into it and it actually turned out fine. Yeah, but I was like
800 people in the room probably. And we brought the podcast desk up to the, so instead of the boring standing at the podium and say, and the next award goes to.
It's awesome.
Instead, we interviewed the nominees and presented the awards as live podcast and had the mics and it was fun and hilarious. And it
was a good branding exercise for us too.
Yeah, totally.
Well, now we could start Clubhouse as we record podcasts.
On it.
Can open a room. No, I think, one of the things that a lot of my clients who come in that range of, long standing business, comfortable, good money, but a little bit bored and saying, really, this sucks my energy. What I say to them is, let's not stop doing that. Let's put a bow on it and ship it. Let's sell it. So I try to, and my children laugh because they say that I would sell them if I could, and they're right.
Including them.
But not everything. No, you can't do it with everything, but there's a lot of things that people have figured out because they love the process of figuring it out. But the running of it drains them for whatever reason. And so it's like, what I'm really exploring in 2021 as I think of what is my lane, what is my unique brilliance, which for me translates to what would I do for free all day long? Like I would do this for free all day long, right? I would be on a stage for free all day long. You bring me your problem, I will solve the heck out of it all day long, and I never get tired. That's what I do. And so once you figure that, I'm starting to think in that way, but macro in our industry, in a service profession industry, and understanding that they're creators, and then and if you look at some of the personality profiles, you can actually even identify like your wealth dynamics. I'm a creator and a star, but I'm mostly a creator. There's people who are 100% star, who need to be in the limelight all day, attracting eyeballs. That's not really me. I love that, but I need to go and just do stuff, right? And so if you look at some of the big companies that have massive audiences, massive lists, the founders of those companies are stars in the wealth dynamics. They just want that energy of the audience. They may not be great at the creation. So I'm like, I'm happy creating a way if I can feed my creations to those stars. And I sail in the sunset, passive income, we're good.
Dolores, you have brought a level of inspiration to Dave and I. I can tell by Dave just by looking at him. Well, it's interesting, like analyzing this, just a little bit of getting behind the curtain here. Dave, I still don't remember how many years ago it was we decided to do a podcast, but it was 6 years ago.
And anyone that listens would know that it was you that brought the idea. I kind of came along. Oh my gosh, Dolores just lost her headset. There you go. It's back. I'm going to say 7. Let's say 7.
7 years ago. And so we've been building this for 7 years. We've got audiences globally, and we haven't asked for a guest in a few years. Like people like your Jessica call us to get, so like we've built something, but we do this for fun. We do this so Dave and I can hang out and meet people like you, Dolores. And we do see this as a business potential, but like it's fun to think of it that way.
So we're going to have to do a follow-up with Dolores. How do people find you, Dolores, real quick? We don't
have to rush that fast. I mean, I'm coming undone here with my microphone falling apart. I think we definitely need a episode 2.
Yeah. And
we also need let's create some stuff Zoom call, which I don't say that often, but I really had a lot of fun. Where do they find me? They find me at mastersinclarity.com.
Okay.
Amazing. Dolores, thank you so much for being on, and we will bring you back on for part 2.
Absolutely.
And we'll also just have another catch up sometime off the record and keep on jamming.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
All right, Dolores, take care.
See ya.
Okay, so Dave, Dolores was incredible energy. She was great. It's so fun to see other visionaries trying to figure out how to, and it's that concept of passive income. It's such a good concept. And you and I have been noodling with that idea for a long time with our, boiling point process course and all these other little opportunities. But it's almost, you're like using the words different laneways. It's a different way of thinking, and I'm not practiced in thinking that way. And that's why I get energized listening to people like her.
Yeah, no, and I think it's finding those complementary strengths, right? And I just think that's, it sounds like in the stage agencies example, she did a good job of that. But what I was going to mention is, we're kind of, you and I have been noodling the idea of like lifestyle, like we're calling it that, like, not knowing if you want the energy to 10x your company and all that kind of stuff. It's not for everyone. What's happened for me in the last, I guess almost a year with the pandemic is it's actually in a weird way. Like one of the challenges I had was, to grow the business, this idea that I should, like, this is a coaching business, that I got to get out, I got to travel more, and it was in total conflict with what I want to be doing in my life. Right. Yeah. Which is, I've got 3 young kids. I want to be around more. And I was getting a lot of feedback that, the challenge you're having, Dave, is that, you don't want to be in Toronto or Boston, and it's not that I don't want to be there, but I have other priorities right now.
Yeah.
I believe that you can still, kind of slowly grow your business, and you don't have to be physically so it's kind of been interesting to see this play out, because then all of a sudden that it becomes a viable option. It actually becomes the option. It's not even, it's not even an option anymore. It becomes this is the way you're going to do it. Yeah. So I've been just kind of enjoying that part of it. I mean, in the midst of, I would like to travel. I'd like to get out. But it's interesting to watch how the business has responded. So, and the other thing that I was going to mention is this, my wife's going through Mary Ellen's going through the graduate certificate of executive coaching course at Royal Roads right now.
Nice.
So she's re-exposing me to all this stuff. And she introduced me to this book that I've heard before. I've never actually read it until recently. It's called Prosperous Coach. But it was the concept that Dolores has brought up. It's like building your business around your life, not the other way around. And it sounds like we have, to a degree, you and I, in terms of our weekends and nights and all this kind of stuff. But there was another thing, is a challenge was just taking advantage of a day to do something. And so I was like, you know what? I kind of have these days where they're all jammed full, and then I've got my family time. But what if I introduced, we had this beautiful ice. Remember that about 2 weeks ago? Yes. Perfect. You only get it once every 4 years. And my son says, Dad, do you want to go skating? And it was like, well, yeah, but I got to, you know what? I can book off. I can go for the afternoon. And then the week after, we had this wonderful snowfall. And my daughter saying, can we go skiing to Poli? Can I play hooky? I'm like, yeah, I should play hooky too. So I'm trying to incorporate more of that into my life. And just when I listen to Dolores, it's not, you have to be smart about how you do it. I'm learning, but just give it, kind of embracing that little bit of freedom that's available to us, that sometimes that limiting belief we have, which is, no, I got to crank it out from this time to this time. Yeah. Don't deviate from that. You got your off time. And I'm just like, wait, it doesn't mean I'm not working hard, but I can do this differently. So I'm sharing some learning for me.
No, I think that's really good. And, making your business work for you. And it's kind of neat that we just have such similar paths where we are with our businesses, and that we're both figuring that part out.
And families, we just, kind of got married close to around the same time, and started close to around the same time. Why not have three? Maybe
Dolores will want to help us make our podcast the stars that the podcast deserves to be.
Love it. Well, she sure has some cool energy. Nice to have her on. Some cool takeaways. I'm going to let you do the what do you call it?
Okay, we're going to do the extra. And I'm going to add something to it. I'm going to add that right before this podcast, I was talking to you, Dave, and that we don't really remind our audience who we are much. So I encourage everybody to go check out Dave's company at visioncoachinginc.ca. .com. Thank you. visioncoachinginc.com. And check out his incredible suite of coaching services, and check out our films at hemmingshouse.com, our commercial films, but also check us out. You can find a lot of our original content on YouTube. And now I have to remind you to obviously hit the subscribe button to Boiling Point. And you can do that on iTunes, wherever it is that you get your amazing podcasts in your life. And check us out also at boilingpointpodcast.com. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye, Dave. And
a parting note to thanking that MacBook Pro, what it did, because now Greg can have a fourth child.
No, I still have the snip. So Dave,
okay.
That would have been inconsequential.
Oh, there I'm glad you're better, man. I'm glad you're better.
Right, we'll see you in a little bit, because the secret's out. We batch record these. So I'll see you in 15 minutes.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Boiling Point. Remember to rate and subscribe to us on iTunes, and follow us on Twitter at Boiling Point Pod. To see more from Dave Vale, check out leadershipunleashed.ca or visioncoachinginc.com, and on Twitter at Dave_Vale. And to catch up with Greg, visit hemmingshouse.com and at Greg Hemmings on Twitter. Thanks for listening, and remember, keep that pot boiling.